Hello, friends. Welcome to On the Couch program. We are super excited that you'll be joining us. On the Couch is going to be aired every Friday evening at 7 p.m. on our YouTube channel. This program will be focused on answering questions around really difficult topics of finance, family dynamics, parenting, dating, and divorce. So if any of these topics are affecting anyone that you care about or even yourself, please tune in for some biblical answers. We would love to hear from you as well on your own questions, so please send that in to our email address, which will be located in the details below. Thanks so much. We look forward to hearing from you.
Financial problems, troubled family relationships, unplanned pregnancy, broken marriage, delinquent children, or overwhelming grief. Are you burdened by the care of life? Are you feeling hopeless? Friend, whatever you are going through, whatever questions you may have, God has the answers. We invite you to join us on the couch, a Bible-based program that will give you insight into what the Bible says about these critical issues of life. We present to you On the Couch, finding hope in the midst of a crisis.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another presentation of On the Couch. This is the program where you get your questions answered. It is Bible-based, and it is planned with you in mind. We want to thank you for joining us for viewing another On the Couch program this evening. And today we'll be discussing parenting. That's a topic that is on the couch. And we have with us on the couch this evening Miss Anita Gonzalez, a social worker, one whom has willingly accepted our invitation to share with us. Miss Anita, welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. And as we go into this evening's program, we do hope that not only will it bless us, but it will bless our viewers. I hope that many parents, as they tune in this evening, their questions will be answered. And this will help them as they lead their family, their children, because the saying is still true. The family is a reflection of the society. So welcome. Tell us a little about yourself.
Sure, thank you. First of all, a little about myself. I grew up in Tennessee, so that is part of who I am.
Okay.
My parents immigrated here from Chile, South America. I am the mother of 10 beautiful kids, anywhere from ages 6 all the way up through almost 23 years old. So
Okay.
busy. You probably can't see my gray hairs. And I'm also a social worker. I have the majority, not all of my practice actually has been with children and adolescents and working with families, working in child welfare. So yeah, that's a little bit of a part of me. And I'm glad to be here. The fact that I have kids and that I have that I'm a social worker and have a degree, not mean I know everything. Trust me when I say that I still have to pray and read God's word and really ask for wisdom, when it comes to the topic of parenting. So I'm very happy to be here this evening, and I hope to be a tool. I hope God gives me the words to speak, and that it is a blessing, like you said, to everyone. Because this, honestly, parenting is a journey. We all know that every child is different, and honestly, we grow as parents, right?
Sure.
We for things as we move forward in this lifelong journey, and so. But again, the best way always is to hold on to Christ's hand. So, thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for that. As we get started this evening, I need to ask you this question up front. Do you think it is possible to build in this day and age a strong family unit? Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. It is possible. I think, there are a lot of things this day and age, there are a lot of things that are pulling our attention, right? I mean, we have work, we have, kids have school and activities, we have church, we have a lot of responsibilities, on our plate. But, family should be the number one focus of everything. Everything that we do, when we think about how does this affect my children, how does it affect my marriage, how does that affect our family in general. And, there is a way for us, as Christ's body to move forward and to make decisions, where we think about our family and we think about what's best, for our kids and make choices work-wise. What will be beneficial for my kids, for my family? What's beneficial for me as a growing parent, right? To be able to have time with my kids. I think it's about balancing priorities, but I also think there's something else. And I think it's something that we cannot overlook, and that's the fact that we live in a spiritual world. There's a spiritual battle around us constantly. So when we talk about, can we be a strong family unit? I'm not talking about, just based on my merits and my efforts and my husband's efforts and my kids being good kids. I think it goes, like looking at it from a Christian perspective, it goes further than that. It goes further to see, wait a minute, why are we having a rough day? Why do I feel disconnected? Let me pray about it. Let me ask God right now for wisdom. Let me, see what's in front of me, the spiritual battle that my kids are battling, that I'm battling, that's affecting the nuclear family. And I think, again, I think that's something as a Christian perspective, we have to be aware that, we are constantly under attack. We are constantly, the family unit is constantly being pressured, but if we're able to, continuously strive towards connecting with our kids, strive towards the number one thing, which is Christ in the home, and, it is possible to get to have a strong family unit, but it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of prayer, and it takes prioritizing, what will benefit the family. So, yeah, it is possible. And I think we also go through journeys, maybe where there are some days that, wow, you just saw something, you see and everything. He gives us the words to say when we ask for that wisdom, and then we see can lead in our children's lives. There's some days when we struggle and we're like, what's going on? And I know as a parent, Pastor, as the years have gone by, I would say as the years have gone by, because this is a younger parent, but now as an older parent, I realize there are some days when I'm not a good parent either. And it depends on how connected am I to the source today. Did I connect with him this morning? Did I read my Bible? Did I ask God for help? How connected am I today? Because I need to be also able to give that light to my kids. So that's really important as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. We know our children. We know their temperament. And I'm from the Caribbean, and oftentimes you'll hear parents saying that child, or family members saying that child is a split image of their mom or their dad, as the case may be. But sometimes our children have temper, bad temper. And oftentimes it might be a reflection of us as the parent, but sometimes not. My experience has taught me that. Now, how do you deal with a child? What's your recommendation to a parent who has to be dealing with a child, or sometimes children, that have bad temper?
I think there's a lot of things to consider. First and foremost, and we don't always think about this, so that's why I say first and foremost, I think we have to think about this. Are my kids' needs being met right now? In other words, is it close to lunchtime, so they're hungry? Are they thirsty? Do they get enough rest? These are the things that we know that do affect child behavior, right? What did they eat? Are they eating well? Because we know that there are things in our food, preservatives, food coloring, that do affect our children's behavior and cognitive abilities, and it does help. So I think we have to realize, wait a minute, why is my child acting out right now? Is it possible that this is an expression of a need? And I just named a couple. Another need might be they are needing help with maybe controlling the environment. Like they don't know how to control their emotions at the moment. That's why they're angry. That's why they're having a fit. So sometimes we have to kind of be, as a parent, the emotional container for the child. We think about this a lot. We think about the terrific twos and the terrific threes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Having a little fit. Well, those are, they're still learning how to deal with their emotions, how to process what their emotions feel like, and how they should handle them correctly. And sometimes they don't know, how to begin to regulate. So sometimes our kids might need help. Honestly, even older kids need help. Even adults sometimes.
Yes.
But so sometimes that's part of it. They're needing help themselves to be able to control what they're feeling. So then how we respond to that, will determine, is this turning to a bigger temper tantrum? Are we able to embrace them in some way, or help them to soothe, or help them to find a way, to self-soothe and calm down so that they can deal with the situation? Sometimes there's a child that, we talk about needs. Is it that they're needing my attention? They're needing my time. I've been busy all day, and my child is having a fit, whether it's a 3-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 17-year-old. What is it that they're needing? So I do think that is something that we have to think about. Sometimes we're just so busy. We miss signals. And as a mom of many kids, I will tell you, I consistently miss signals because there's, I'm outnumbered, right? More than one child, you are not fully aware of everything they do and all they do. But I think the first thing is, okay, what does this child need? What are they trying to communicate with me? How can I help in the moment? Rather than just be, okay, straighten up. Sometimes kids can't straighten up. They need our help to be able to process how they're feeling. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling frustrated because we said no. They're feeling upset because we changed plans. They're feeling, out of control because everyone's making decisions for them, and there's just different reasons why. So if we can meet that, I think that's important. I think the other aspect too of dealing with, and I've already talked about it a little bit, dealing with a child that's having, that's angry a lot, or a child that's having fits, is again helping them learn to label what they're feeling. So instead of being angry and like, well, I'm thinking about teenagers looking at me, right? It's like, okay, hold on. What is going on? Tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Let's talk about it, right? Here's the thing is, when we think about raising children, Pastor, we need to think about it as we're raising adults. We are raising future adults, so we need to teach them how to communicate what they need, how they feel. And so I also have to be attentive and listening, and I have to guide them. And you mentioned it earlier that, sometimes they learn things because of what we do, right?
Yes.
Teachers, and there's, an element of, hey, I learned this way, that way. So guess what that means? That means that when we fly off the handle, we need to take a moment and say, you know what, I'm really sorry that I just screamed and had my own temper tantrum. I really was, I should not have said that. I totally should have been this way. I'm sorry. And I think we can show our kids, the correct way. I should have said this. I should have done that. I could have done this. And we're all learning together. I don't think, we need to go into this like, the kid is wrong and I'm always right. No, if I miss the signal and I'm realizing my child's having a fit because it is close to nap time, it is close to lunchtime. Well, then also I need to recognize that and realize that and give grace. Now, for children who, who are dealing maybe with other issues, Pastor, where, they're angry because of other things in their life, I do think that does take time from parents to sit down and say, hey, buddy, what's going on? Like, let's talk, and we have to take the time to talk that through with our kids. Is it something happening at school that's carried over at home? And so I said something to staff. Is it that they're feeling it, like I said earlier, are they feeling ignored from me because I'm busy working and they feel like earlier I wasn't paying attention, so they felt unimportant? Our kids need our attention. I know sometimes it's hard to give, but can we sit down and talk about it? Can we sit down and communicate regarding it? This is what I think about emotions, Pastor. I mean, the Bible even talks about, Jesus became angry at the temple when something went wrong. So I don't think it's a matter of it's wrong to be angry. That's what I teach my kids. It's not wrong to have our emotions. What we have to look at is how do we handle them? What to do about it? How do we communicate, what we need, or how do we communicate with others? Because are we hurting relationships? Are we hurting ourselves? I think that's the important key. And there will be situations, Pastor, where we spend time trying to talk with our kids, trying to teach them coping skills. Maybe we're trying to help them regulate their emotions. And maybe there comes a point where there's more that they're needing from us. And at that point, of course, if we have to seek professional help, there's nothing wrong with that. Seeking help from a therapist, from a counselor, school psychologist, social worker, a pastor, like, hey, like, I've tried this, I've tried that, someone help me. There's absolutely no, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So
I've had to counsel children in the past, parents, and my experience as a pastor, one of the things I've found out is that we parents, and I say we parents because I have 5, so I'm somewhere up there with you. But we parents, I believe it should not be, but we have our favorites. And sometimes that gets us into trouble because I have learned that our children, they study us so much that they know our every move as we move about and act. But the parents out there with their favorite child, what is your recommendation, especially knowing that there are multiple children in the household? How do you recommend that they deal with this? How do they treat their children? Should they give the favorite everything? Should they point out that, in fact, John is my favorite without calling name? Or should they love their children as a unit? Each different, no doubt, because we are all different, but nonetheless, as a unit.
Well, I tell my kids, and my kids are pretty much different ages. Every once in a while, like once a year, 2 of my girls, because they're just always apart, they might be the same age, and then, same with another set of siblings. So when they're different ages, I'll say, you're my favorite 15-year-old, you're my favorite 8-year-old,
Yeah.
Here's the Pastor, that every child needs to feel special. They need to feel important. So I believe our job as a parent is to make each and every child feel loved and treasured, and that they are the world to me, each and every one. I don't believe in having favorites. That doesn't mean that there are times, we all know this, and I've heard this before, there may be children who it's easier to love or to like or to woman from the other, but that doesn't mean that we love our other children any less in that moment. There's different temperaments and personalities and things, and I think that kind of keeps it exciting in the house. And having everyone be the same, that would be kind of, dull. But I truly think that we as parents, our job is to find moments where we connect with each child and that each child feels that they are the apple of my eye. And, I don't always do that well. I forget, I get busy. I have 10 kids, you have 5, so there you go. Some days it's just like, I know in the back of my mind, I've got to connect with each kiddo. And my goal is every day for them to feel special. I don't always hit that goal, but it's a goal that I have. And I think as parents, we've got to do that. Now, the kiddos that we feel like, some days it's hard to love, or some days it's just hard to connect. You know what? They need to feel like they're the apple of your eye even more, because they know that they're difficult. They know maybe that people don't understand me. They know that, boy, sometimes, I get in trouble more than my other siblings. Or, boy, I get in fights more than my other siblings. I truly believe that they are the ones that need our love, attention, our glimmer, even more at that moment. And I know as a parent, it sounds hard, like, well, they drive me crazy. Be told, all of our kids drive us crazy at some point, and truth be told, all of our kids bring us to tears because we're so proud of them at some point.
Yeah.
There's a whole gamut of that. And I truly believe, the Bible talks about, how we're special, how much God loves us. And we are the apple of his eye, you and me and everybody else. So if God can love all these people, I truly feel that he wants us to pour that same love to all of our children. And here's the thing is, I know, having a lot of kids at home, it's like, well, that's not fair because you didn't do that to them and you did this to me, and, there's comparison. Yeah. But I think we also have to realize we can't parent the exact same way with each child, because each child is different.
Right.
Number one. Number two, like I shared earlier, I self-disclosed that, there are things maybe that I did as a younger parent that I don't, that I wish I hadn't, that I've grown and learned, and I'm trying to change that as an older parent. And so, I'm also a different person now than when I was 5 or 10 years ago. So there may be things that even I feel that I do differently as a parent now than maybe when I did when my older kids were younger. But, in all of that, this is all to say that it's important that, we parent each child in the way that they need to be parent. And I'm going to talk a little bit further too about this, because, we're talking about loving our kids and treasuring our kids. I know at my house, we talk about the 5 love languages.
Okay.
Or at least I'll bring it up, because even myself, there are things that I need, or there's a different way of how I express love than how some of my kids express love. So some of my kids need that physical touch. So they're, that's that affection. They're hugging me, bear hugs. So I know when I walk by them, I rub a little hair, squeeze their shoulders, physical touch, right? Some of my kids, their love language is gifts. So they're always making me something, or they go out and they come home and they bought me a snack, they buy me lunch, they buy, whatever it is. That's their way of showing love, right? I have other kids who, words of affirmation. They will write me, Mom, I love you, I'm so proud of you, I'm thankful that, God gave me a mom, and I'm like, this child, words of affirmation. So then that means, we all know that is the way that we feel love is the same way that we're going to give love. So if she's giving me words of affirmation, that is a clue that for her, words of affirmation are how I can show her love. Then there's service. That's my husband. My husband, he works full time. He helps us in the home. He helps cook. Just, there's a lot around service to the church. And so some of our kids, as well, service is one of the ways. You know, they may make me my special gluten-free bread. You know, and I didn't ask for it, but they did it. You know, they make my bed. They do something special. That's their way of showing love. And then my love language is time, quality time. And some of my kids is the same. So they may stay up past bedtime and come downstairs to talk to me because for them, quality time. So even looking at the 5 love languages, you can see how you can't treat every child the same, right?
Yeah.
The same, you know, because each child is receiving love in a different way. And we want them to feel loved and treasured. I want all of them to feel just as special as the next in their way. And I really, really think it's important that we pay attention to that. I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I forget. You know, if anything else, Pastor, some days I'm like, all right, everyone's going to get a hug. All right, I want to try to give everyone words of affirmation and just trying to spread the love. I'm going to make sure I take everyone out this week to do something, whether it's wash the car or go grab a lemonade or whatever, to give that quality time. So, again, I think we're all precious in His sight, and I do believe that, our kids should be all of them precious in our sight as well.
Yes, and I say amen to that. The love language is very, very vital to families. And this is something that I encourage those who are watching us this evening, to adopt, to allow this to be a part of their family life. And it will make bonding very, very effective in our families. Now, according to Proverbs 13:24, the wise man says, whoever spares the rod hates his son. Is spanking necessary? Should it be done? Corporal punishment. What is your advice to parents, especially parents who likes to pull conveniently, I may say, the Bible text to bring out their point as it relates, in this case, to their children and disciplining their child or children? What is your advice to these parents?
Sure. Well, first of all, when you think of the word discipline, it's to disciple, to teach. And so I think sometimes that aspect of discipline is forgotten. Like, not only am I going to say what you did is wrong, but I also need to be able to teach my child what is the correct way of doing whatever they need to do. Because that's why we discipline, correct? That's why we're talking about this, because we're talking about teaching our children. So that's an important part of this discussion. When we think about, the Great Shepherd, the Psalms 23 said, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You look at, what shepherds use their staff for, right? It's not to bang the sheep. You went the wrong way. You shouldn't have done that. No, I mean, it has a little hook on it, because sometimes one just keep wandering off or didn't hear you, so they have to kind of like, whoop, let's take them off the cliff. Let's just pull this way. And I really think that, if you think about the staff, you think about what that's for, it's really to guide the sheep of where they need to be, just to kind of give them a little nudge. This way, no, not that way, this way. We don't have an image of Christ, our shepherd, banging us on the head. We have an image of Him guiding us and teaching us. And so when we look at that, we think about, okay, what am I teaching my child? How can I communicate what I do need them to do in the moment? So, there are generations of families that have spanked, there are generations that haven't. And I think some of it has to do, Pastor, with, well, if I was spanked, then I don't know, I may not have other tools in my toolbox to discipline my child, right, to teach them. If I wasn't spanked, then I had the opportunity as a parent to watch my parents teach me in different ways using creative things. And so I do think that part of discipline is looking at what's in our toolbox. How can I build up my toolbox? How can I be creative? How can I find ways to teach my children what I need to teach them in a way that is effective, right? In a way that will not break their spirits, in a way that will not, will not anger them, not anger like I hate mama, no, like in a way that will, have them spite us. I think we have to look at what are the tools in my toolbox. And so we know that spanking, looking at, kids in child welfare, kids in foster care, kids in care, kids who have come through really, really tough places, we know that, physical discipline, sometimes the intent behind that is not effective. The child internalizes that as something different, or they can internalize it as something very different. They can interpret it as a different message, like I'm not loved, I'm not cared for, and that's really not what we're trying to teach them. It's just some parents don't have another tool in their toolbox, and I think that's what we have to look at. Pastor, okay, what is the lesson I need my child to learn, and how can I teach it? Now, sometimes that does require us. I will tell you this: it requires us to take a second and go to our room and say a prayer. Sometimes it'll be like, we're going to talk about this at dinner time, right? Because I need time to think about what do I need my child to learn, how can I teach this lesson, and what will be effective. There are times when, a child will behave a certain way, Pastor, because they haven't been taught a different way.
Yeah.
What good is it going to be if I spank their bottoms if they have not been taught the correct way? So perhaps the better way would be, okay, what could we have done? What went wrong? What could we have done differently? And let's practice saying that. I want you to turn around and tell your sibling, what you just told me, but change your tone. Or I want you to come to me, let's practice, how should you have come and asked for me, how to do this? Or if it's like they did something they shouldn't have, well, sometimes there are natural consequences, Pastor, that just come with the territory. So you decided to stay up all night and do something you're not supposed to, you still have to get up at 6 to move forward, right? There's still a lesson to be taught that I'm not budging, and the day goes on. You left something on the floor, you need to go pick it up. There's going to be natural consequences that come into play. You were angry and you tore your favorite shirt. I'm really sorry. That's really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Natural consequence. But let's talk about what we could do differently. What could you do to handle that situation? Let's practice. Is it throwing ice outside? Is it punching your pillow? What is it? We need to be willing to teach our children, which is what discipline means, a different way, a better way of handling the situation. And I do think that, spanking a child, if that is something that, a parent chooses to do, it should be used with caution. It should be used, we've tried A, B, C, D, E, F, maybe it should be completely off the table, honestly, but I think we have to look at, okay, what tools do I have in my toolbox? And if I don't have enough tools and I keep going to the spanking, it's not effective, I need to figure out what else, because my job is to train up my child in the way they should go. I should be teaching them. I need to, talk with them and teach them consequences. And sometimes that is asking God for wisdom. Okay, God, how do I teach them this lesson that you want them to do?
Yes, and one of the things too is that parents, the average parent, seem not to understand that the child should not be taught when they are born. But the training starts from in the womb. As they, through each trimester, mom and dad should be there And I say that because I remember my days when I used to just put my head on my wife's stomach and speak to the unborn child. And you find that these things, we try to click them when it is too late. And for parents who are listening and watching us this evening, as you have explained, there should always be a way to discipline, and we must understand disciplining. Are you recommending that each parent should take a course in parenting?
Absolutely. Take a course, read a book, read a second book, read about it. It's a lifelong journey. I am not an expert because I feel like there's so much more to learn. That I'm always reading. I like to read little paragraphs. I like to read articles. There's so many things. Now that it's COVID, there's there's been changes in the way we should be parenting our children because of all that COVID, had all the changes our kids have gone through, some of the mental health effects. We are a growing and changing society. And so that, looking at, you look at your 10, 15-year-old, they are very different than when we were 10 and 15 compared to our parents were 10 and 15. Different society as a whole. So absolutely, I think we should be reading, talking, praying, connecting with other parents, and really, I don't think we should see it as, I know everything, I'm done. No, it should be like that we should continue to seek knowledge and seek, information to just do our job better. I do feel that is honoring God. I do. I really feel that He wants us to keep learning and growing in Him. And there are times, it's unbelievable, God is amazing. I will read something in my devotion that I needed that day, for my child, and if I wasn't open to that, I would have missed that opportunity, right? So absolutely, I think we do need to be, seeking more knowledge, absolutely.
Okay, yes, and I think so too. Watching us this evening is not just Christian families, Christian parents, but those who are not Christian, even those who do not believe in God. But nonetheless, we have a Creator who made us. And whether we believe it or not, is still in charge, in spite of what we may think. And maybe we here in the Western world, we, based upon how we were schooled, our worldview is different from those in other territory. Nonetheless, we believe as Christians that because there is a higher power, whom we call God, that we should guide our families, our children, into praying to that higher power, because He controls the steering wheel, so to speak. I want you to speak to parents this evening, Christian parents, and also those who are not Christian but believe in God, encouraging them about the importance of guiding and teaching our children. 1, about God. 2, the Bible as His Word. And 3, prayer.
Yes, absolutely. That is one of our greatest responsibilities as parents, I believe, is to teach them about Christ, about our Creator, about our Savior. And I do think that's something that should start, earlier you were talking about, you learn things, we should be looking at, teaching our kids things as young as they can, right? I mean, even at, while mom was pregnant, like singing songs and
Yes.
or child. But, I definitely think that spiritual things, really, things that have to do with God, a relationship with God, or spiritual walk. I do think that's something that has to be taught, or should be taught, as early as we can. Now, it's never too late, but absolutely as early as we can. And I say this because I remember as a young parent with a lot of little kids on the church bench, everybody making noise, like, shh, be quiet, and it was like, I remember talking to some of my friends and family who, they're like, we don't even take our kids to church till they're like 2 or 3, they can sit still. But then part of me was like, well, how will they know that this is important? How can we model it? How can we practice sitting still and listening if we haven't given them the opportunity, right? And so I do think that it's important that we begin some of these practices, very young. Things like reading the Bible together, reading scripture. Currently my 6-year-old, he's learning to read. So as he's learning to read, we do our family worship in the morning. We have him read just one verse, and simply we'll take the next verse and we'll follow through it. But that's okay. He's still participating, right? And we want to see children participate. We want to see them bloom and grow in Christ. When our child is asked to pray, absolutely. I mean, they've been as young as 2 or 3 years old asking to pray, and their prayers are funny sometimes. I have years ago, I had one of my little ones at that when she was 3 or 4. How everybody goes up front to church for children's story, and then they ask to volunteer to pray, and she prays, and I'm like, what she's gonna say. Thanks for mom and daddy, whatever. Then she said, and thanks for the baby that's in mommy's tummy. And we laughed because I was not even pregnant. So, but at this time, she was praying her heart out to her father, to her friend, to the baby. So even if they say funny things, like I have another one who would pray, and like almost every prayer she'd be like, God, for my birthday, I want to do this and that. We're like, it's just dinner. We're just praying for But, she wanted to talk to God, and who am I to tell her no, So I think even that, I would say that's the most important part. They want to talk to God, you let them talk to God. So sometimes we'll say, who wants to pray? I'll have 3 little ones. And so I'll let all the little me's pray, and, and we pray as well at the very end. This is about, helping them to, nurturing a relationship with Christ, giving them the opportunity to do that, so that they see that it's important, right? That, hey, God loves you too. He wants to hear your voice. He wants to hear you sing. He wants to hear you pray. But I think, too, it has to do with by example. And I think that's the important part. There was a period of my life where maybe I did my devotions in my room, kind of, in the morning or late at night, and my kids weren't around. But I've since been really, I've been really convicted that my children need to see me read my Bible. Even if I didn't wake up early, then it's, in the morning it's chaotic, and I have to close my ears like this because everyone's loud. They need to see me read the Bible. They need to see that it's that important. They need to see me as an example, putting Christ first. Our kids need to see us, participating in church, serving others, living Christ, in our life. Because again, we're social creatures. They'll do what we do, right? So if this is that important, then they need to see that mom and dad are doing it too. And it's not about, showing off, or it's just about, I'm going to model for them what I think is important. And I'm going to incorporate them, and I'm going to, have them participate alongside me as well. Now that we're, COVID and church, and we're having to do, church online, my husband and our family have gotten really involved with transmitting the service and putting meetings together, this and that. Even in that outlet, Pastor, we've involved all of our kids to help us support videos. We've involved some of our teens, to help us learn how to put videos together for the church service, how to record. And so, yeah, we're serving Christ, we're serving the church, it's a mission, it's, we believe in the gospel, and this is the way we get to share gospel right now through YouTube, and we're involving them, even though, they're 15 and 16, and that's okay,
Yeah,
that we want to do that, absolutely.
sure. And we just have to keep encouraging them and let them know how much God loves them. And God is depending on them also. The book of Proverbs also have a text in it, Proverbs 22 verse 6. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go, so that when that child is old, he will not depart from it. There are many parents tonight listening, watching this program, whose heart is paining because they have done their best in raising their children in the church, taking them to church. But somewhere along the way, when that child becomes an adult, he or she has walked away from it. First, why do you think our children leave the church? Based on your experience and your training, yes, in a sense, indirectly. And secondly, what is your advice to those parents who are aching this evening?
As we reach, adulthood, of course, we're like, we're independent, right? We can vote, we can drive, we can do so many things. Society, that's one of the big old milestones in our lifetimes, turning an adult. And I think part of that process is the natural development of a child, where they're trying to figure out their identity, they're trying to figure out where they belong, and they're trying to, to live that out. And to some extent, I do think that it's good that young adults, teenagers struggle with the moment and about what do they really believe, right? Because here's the thing is, we've grown up, we've raised them to believe in our God, but at some point in their life, there has to be a transition to it is their God. For people, there are different journeys that people have to take to get to that point where it is their God. And as God-fearing parents, I mean, we do what we can. We mess up a lot. We pray God's grace over everything. We continue to pray for our children. We watch them struggle sometimes, and it's hard. But at some point, they have to make a decision, right? That this is their God, and they have to go do that for themselves. So I think that's a natural process that you see everybody go through. It doesn't always look the same. It can look, it can look like, I just kind of, maybe I'm not as involved in church for a few months to now I'm fully involved to I've left the church completely for years. I've heard of my extended family. My grandmother had sons that left the church for years and years and years, and my grandmother's passed away, I don't know how many years ago, when I was young. And my uncles now, the past 5 or 10 years, as older men in their 70s, 80s, have turned around and figured out, oh, this is my God too. They have, they have chosen that and have been baptized. And I know, all our family said, wow, the prayers, all of our prayers, all of the years and years of praying, God did a miracle. And yes, my grandmother passed away, didn't get to see that, but she had faith that it would, right? And so I think the most important thing we can do is to realize that there's not anything we can do except prayer, at that point. I mean, our kids are adults, they make decisions, they're going to have to deal with consequences, and all we can do is pray and pray and pray. And sometimes they take journeys that take them, different directions, but we pray that, and we have faith that God will bring them back, and that they will be, that they will know that that's their God as well, and that, the experiences they've had have really clearly allowed them to see that. So that's a tough thing, I think, as a parent to watch. You know, I have a young adult, and I have teenagers in the home, and I know they're going to have to make their own decisions in life. And I think that is really hard for us to see. Like I'm just in the beginning phases of that. You know, to watch them make their own decisions. You know, yes, we can make them go to church, but again, it's about, we want them to find the God that we found, to find the same Father that we found in Christ. We want them to have that experience. We can show them, we can talk to them about it, but they've got to discover that for themselves. And you know, the world is pulling people in so many directions, Pastor. I think that's part of why we see people in the church. They get busy and busy and busy and busier and busier. You know, I also think some of what's going on maybe with our you know, young adults as well is, are they falling through the cracks? You know, they've grown out of Pathfinders. You know, they're not quite, you know, old enough to be considered for deaconess. Are we utilizing them in the church? Can we utilize them in the church? Are we reaching out and making it an effort to include these young adults, you know, who are trying to figure out their place, and they're trying to find their God, and trying to, you know, find out, you know, what it means for them to serve as well. So can we incorporate them in any way? Can they teach Sabbath school? Can they help as a deaconess? Can they, you know, help around and share their skills and abilities in church? You know, we know that if we can keep you know, teenagers, adolescents, young adults busy, involved in the church, utilizing their skills, whatever they are. Do they play an instrument? You know, are they good with computers? Are they good with, you know, audio visual? How can we really incorporate them so that they have more opportunities to figure out who their God is? You know, I think those are the things that that can be helpful. You know, but we've got to be on the lookout. And we've got to find ways to engage that group. You know, sometimes we're like, oh, well, they're college age, you know, maybe they go off to another place and go to college. Okay. So where are the college age kiddos in our church? How are we engaging them? Because a lot of them are away from their home, right? Mm-hmm. So how can we also embrace them as a family of Christ so that they feel like they are a part of the family of Christ as well, and their tools, their skills, you know, and talents can be utilized as well. So, so those are some of, you know, some of my thoughts based on what I've seen and you know, in regards to what you had asked.
Yes, and I want to say to our viewers tonight, with the answer you just gave, one of the things that I'm taking away, and I think it is very profound, is the fact that as parents, we keep introducing them to our God. And they need to find their God. So our God, yes, we are looking from our perspective, our experience, but they need that experience of the same God. So they need to find that God. So as parents, we must always be teaching them or leading them how to have that experience with the God that we have found. And I think that is very, very profound. You know, but parents are challenged. This 21st century has gotten us so busy. We are busy trying to make money. We are busy trying to keep the family together. We are just busy. I want you to encourage the parents this evening how to balance all of this, because it makes no sense. They're trying to find all the money that is necessary to take care of the needs of the family, but nonetheless they're losing the family. So I want you to encourage, and as an experienced mom, to speak to parents out there as to how is the best way to manage their time, that the family is not neglected, all because They are trying to make ends meet.
Sure, that's a great question, because you're right. We have society pulls in every direction, and we have so many responsibilities that sometimes that does happen. So part of the thing really is to, yes, sit back and really evaluate, okay, where am I spending my time? Are my kids getting what they need from me? And sometimes we think about, we talked earlier about the love languages. Think about how we need to be thinking about how can I fill up my child's love cup. It's not always about how much time we spend, but really like the quantity, but the quality, right? So if making sure that we set a certain amount of time aside every day to do A, B, and C, whether that's family worship, dinner at the table, or the bedtime routine, finding that quality time, that time frame where, we keep it, we set up that boundary so nothing interferes with that. That is an important piece of it. We've got to find ways to take advantage of, we only have 24 hours of the day, so unfortunately we don't have any extra time to juggle all of it.
Yeah.
How can we make the most of my day so that I still connect with each of my children somehow, some way? How can I make them feel, connected? That's really, really important. And, there are going to be times when, work takes priority for the moment. And there are times I've had to tell my kiddos, we like the roof over our head, we like the clothes we wear, we like the food we eat. Mommy has to go to work today, and I have to do what I have to do. But they also know that if I'm in a situation, if they need me for something, there's an emergency or they need a little bit more time with me, I will give that to them if I can, right? And sometimes that does mean I may have to juggle and balance things out, so maybe I go to bed a little bit later, because I spend time with them so that I can, then finish up my work. But I really do think there has to be some balance. We can't have our children be, the only thing in the world so that they think the world revolves around them, because it doesn't. We have responsibilities. They know that. They have responsibilities as well. So we have to figure out a healthy way, a give and take, right? I mean, when I go to work, that means, even if I work from home, because I do, and a lot of us are as well with COVID, I still have work to do that does take away my time from you, but there's benefits that come from me working. But when I can give time, I will, and I do need to make sure that I have time and I plan time for the family as well. So, trying to find that balance, I think, Pastor, will depend on each and every family. I know when my husband and I were first married, when we had our first child, I would work in the day and he would work late at night, and that's how we made sure that she got what she needed. That we made sure that we are balancing family life and work life. We've made sacrifices. I've made sacrifices work-wise so that I can be home more. And yes, that has meant maybe taking a part-time job, or maybe that has meant not moving forward maybe professionally like I would have liked. But there is give and take, and I do think that we have to teach our children that as well, that we have responsibility, but we also have to make sure we make time for our kids, our family, church. The most important thing really is our relationship with Christ. Did I make time for that this morning? Or did I make time for that today? Sometimes in the morning may not be good. Sometimes in the middle of the day, that's fine. Did I make time for my relationship with Christ as well? So I think we have to look at what are all the things that we're juggling. And that also means, Pastor, we have to learn to say no.
Yeah.
And that is really hard. I know we struggle with that. Sometimes, it could be, even things we say yes to that are amazing things. But when we look at, okay, wait a minute, is it going to take time away from family, from church? Is it going to take, is it going to affect my mental health? Then I need to consider that. And again, Pastor, that looks different for different people. My husband is a busybody and can do 400 things at once, and he cannot sit still. So he says yes much more frequently, because honestly, he has the energy and he'll get it done and he'll do it smiling. I, on the other hand, the church has asked me to do things, and sometimes I have to say no to long-term projects, right? Because I start sensing some anxiety. Well, how am I going to balance this all out? And I feel already stressed out, and I say, I have to learn to say no. If I know that I can't add anything else to my planner, then I need to be prepared to say no, and I need to be prepared to not feel bad about it. And, I said no, but I'm trying to juggle and balance everything. Now, I think anything that you could do at church or the community that involves your family, I think that is a win-win. So is it voluntary as a family? At church, a lot of times we do praise and worship together as a family. Awesome. I mean, those are the things that you kind of combining, right? You're picking up, what is that saying? You're getting the most out of your buck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Killing two birds with one stone, whatever it's called. You're really just enriching the experience to something we're doing together. The church or the community. So I'm really, balancing all that. So I don't know if there's a full, clear answer. I think, how we balance life will depend on who we are as individuals, where we are in our professional life, how old our kids are, because honestly, when they're little, they need more. Right?
Yeah.
Teenagers need more of us too. But they can do things on their own. They can help, make a sandwich and cook, and they can help as well so that we can balance all of our responsibilities together as a family.
Yeah.
So.
It is so amazing how time flies when you're having a good time. But we have run out of time this evening. But I want to thank you so much for sharing with us. I want to give you the final word to parents who are looking on. I want you to take another minute or two just to encourage those parents.
Sure.
The importance of parenting, the lifelong commitment that they make when they become a parent.
I think the important thing is to remember that it's never too late to make changes. It is never too late. If we realize, I've been doing this parenting thing wrong, or I'm watching my child's behavior and I think I'm not responding. I don't think I'm responding well all this time. I think we need to know that it's okay, that we can make change, that we can make amends with our children, we can make amends with God, we can ask God for wisdom, we can connect with others in the community, learn more, find other ways of doing things better. There is a thing as mama guilt. There's probably things that call daddy guilt too, but I've heard a lot about mommy guilt. I've had to deal with that, where I just feel I should have, I could have, I didn't. And I truly believe that it's not from Christ. I truly believe that's the enemy trying to discourage us, saying, you should have, you could have, and didn't. And I think that's a lie that we have to put aside and say, I didn't, but I'm going to, and I can make a difference. And, if we have broken relationships with our children, Pastor, that is number one. That, other than, of course, connecting with Christ, we've got to find ways to connect with our child. So set everything aside. That has got to be a priority. You can make a change now. You can make that relationship. You can develop a great relationship, a great attachment with the child. You can learn to communicate with your child the correct way. We talked earlier about toolbox, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of tools as a parent. It's never too late to learn a tool. You know what? I've sat down with my kids sometimes and just said, okay, help me. How can I teach you better? What can we do to work through this together? Remember, we're raising adults. I just want to encourage all the parents today that, hey, you can make a change. It is never too late to make change. That is the wonder of God's grace. I heard from a parent, a family friend years ago who said, Anita, I did the best I could. I messed up so much, but I was on my knees a lot, praying, for God's grace and God's wisdom. And through that, change can take place. We can mend relationships for Christ. We can mend relationships and change, change the scope of where our kids are heading. I really believe that we can change generational curses. We can change just generational patterns that we know maybe aren't the best way. We still can change it as parents as we teach our children a different way. So don't discourage. Please don't be discouraged. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Anita, I want to thank you. On behalf of the On the Couch team, I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us. And I know for those who are viewing this evening, that the advice given, the experience shared, it will be a blessing to their family. Viewers, I want to thank you for viewing. On the Couch is here for you. You may have questions. Feel free to send us those questions to onthecouchministry@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. Call up a friend, call up a family member. On the Couch is here every Friday at 7:00 p.m. Central Time. So join us and enjoy these programs, because you never know. The answer you're seeking may be right there. On behalf of the Fil-Am International Church here at Houston, the Access Church, we want to say thank you for viewing, and may God richly bless you. Have a good evening.